Welcome back, everybody. My name's Josh Gosnell with Added, and this week we've got a superstar on the podcast, someone we're very excited to talk with, a leader in the industry, a thought leader. Gary Takacs is with us today. We want to run through what's going on in the industry right now, where we see the industry going in the next couple of years as it relates to technology, and just cover the hot button topics that you guys are asking about every day. Gary, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks, Josh. I'm so excited to be here. I love what you guys are doing over at Addit. As you know, I'm a nerd. I wear my nerd badge with honor, and you guys are pushing the nerd envelope in a very cool way because you don't have to be a nerd to use it, but you're adding capabilities. If not daily, you're adding capabilities all the time, and I couldn't be more excited about the things that you guys are doing.
Thank you. Yeah, we're trying to make everybody else nerds, trying to at least get them into the circle.
You know, it used to be, I remember a time when if you were referred to as a nerd, it was meant disparagingly. It was an insult, but it's completely changed.
Oh,
Today, you know, if you're not a nerd, you're going to be working for one. So today, nerd is kind of a compliment, but I remember a day where it wasn't. And I will tell you that I was a nerd when it wasn't popular to be a nerd. I will admit that. And
well, you were playing the long game. You're playing the long game. You knew what was coming.
We'll go with that. We're going to go with that. Absolutely. But truly, you guys are very close to my heart because the efficiencies that are created by all the different things that it can do really allow an office to put some good systems in place, and to it frees up our team members to do what we need to do more of, which is be face to face with patients. You know, there's a challenge today. You know, I'm a big fan of a relationship driven practice, and that means that we know our patients. We know their names, their spouse's name, their kids' names. We know the dog's name. We know their hobbies and interests, and it's hard to do that when you don't have good support in the practice doing all the things that need to be done. And I love the way it frees up our time of quality team members to spend time face to face with patients doing this humanistic stuff instead of having their head buried, you know, in their keyboard.
Yeah, 100%. You know, it's funny that you mentioned that. I was actually talking to a practice yesterday, a group practice at 18 locations, and they were just kind of detailing out the flip side of it was where they're just too busy and they're missing so much because of how much time their staff's having to spend on certain things. And so he was saying, you know, we're missing over 40% of our inbound calls. And he's like, it's crazy how much we're spending on marketing. And then we see these calls coming in, we're missing them. And he's like, and we have no way, these patients are just going to the next person on Google.
Of course.
You know, they're not going to wait for you to call them back.
There was a time, and I do remember it, there was a time when if someone would call your new patient would call your office and get a voice message, they would wait for us to call back. Well, that ship has long since sailed. Today, they go to the next office on their Google choice, on their Google search. But, you know, this is a challenge. We did this across my client base recently. And I'll brag on my clients. We're a really good group of clients. These are strong practices that want to get better. And we now have the capability of, through data, telling them what percent of the calls that come in during business hours are they missing. All right. And of course, we can have your help for that. Right. And anyway, a client of mine, and it was a baited question because I already knew the answer. I said, hey, Doc, how do you think we're doing on answering calls during business hour? I'm not talking about the one that comes in at midnight. The one that comes in at midnight, I'm okay missing that call. But during your business hours, how do you think you're doing? He goes, oh, Gary, we're doing really well. We got that down. We've got a whole setup where, you know, the assistants can answer the phones if it rings a certain number of times. He said, I think we're doing really well. And the benchmark for doing really well would be, say, missing 5% or less of your calls during business hours. Would you agree that would be sort of a very high level of performance, 5%?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Because I think on average, we see about 33% of inbound calls missed.
Yeah. So I think, you know, if answering calls during business hours was an Olympic sport, if your office was 5% or less, you're making the Olympic team. Okay. Yeah. Well, across our client base, which is a really good cross section of clients, it averaged 38%. So of missed calls.
Yeah.
There you go. And it was like an awakening for them of, oh my gosh, because the marketing's doing its thing. And these are new patient callers. But they're missing 38% of them. So marketing is doing their job getting people to call, but we're failing by not answering the phone. And I understand the challenge. I've been there. But you provide some very cool remedies to that to get it in a manageable single-digit missed call percentage range.
Yeah, you just want to simplify things. I mean, you want to make it easy for the staff. There's so many different things that they're trying to do on a daily basis, and a missed call is not the worst thing. And I'm sure you would agree with this, but we always say the person in front of you is the most important person.
Of course.
When you're having that conversation there. So I'd never want them to stop a conversation to be picking up the phone.
Right.
But at the same time, I don't want to lose this new patient calling in. I mean, it's really simple things. Like one of the things that we offer, that we do, we call it missed call text, but it's just automating the process of reaching out to the patient if we do in fact miss their call. And you go and you customize the message, say something simple, hey, got your call. We're helping a patient at the front desk. Can I give you a call back in 2 minutes? And because you're using Add It for your phone system, we port that number over. The number that's texting them is the number that they just called, right? So it legitimizes things a little bit more, and it's a two-way texting number, so they can actually respond back. It's not a 5-digit that says stop at the end, makes them a little more comfortable.
That process right there, where it's a legitimate phone call, a phone number responding to them, will make all the difference in the world as to how that text message is received by a potential new patient.
Oh yeah.
And there's so many things on a very simple level. I'm a huge fan of being a relationship-driven practice. I think that's one of the one of our things that can be our secret sauce, as a practice, truly knowing our patients. And can we agree that the larger the practice gets, the harder that is?
100%.
I was talking to a client of mine last week, and we're talking about improving how we have our the behavioral side of dentistry, the people side. And he said to me, he goes, Gary, I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit this, but he said, the older I get, the harder it is to remember all my patients. And I said, well, doctor, give yourself some grace. We don't have to know all of them at all times. We just need to know the ones we're seeing today. And we were on a Zoom call, and he looked at me and he goes, oh my gosh, I can do that. But talk about, in case we have some viewers and listeners that don't know about, what happens to the screen when someone's calling. Talk about that. I call it a phone pop, but what would you call that process?
We call it a call pop as well. But basically what we're trying to do is integrate with the practice management software. So assume you're using, a Dentrix and EagleSoft and Open Dental. We want to figure out who that person is that's calling and give you all of the information about this patient on the screen so that we can erase what I call the interrogation call. So where you pick it up and it's, hey, are you a new patient, a patient of record? Okay, what's your name? Okay, what's your date of birth? What's your mother's name?
Pause there for a minute. And let's say this is a long-standing patient of your practice, and now we're interrogating them. And maybe they were here 2 weeks ago. How does that land on the patient? It's like, what, am I chopped liver? You guys don't remember me? I just handed you my credit card for a very large amount about 2 weeks ago. You don't remember me?
Yeah.
And I want to be understanding to the team, because without the tool, the information is there in your software. It's just buried behind so many windows, you don't have access to it.
Yeah, you just want to put it right in the forefront.
You bring it right to the front, and it's right there.
And it goes way beyond just giving you the information on the patient that's calling, but it gives you, because Add It does everything for practice. We're doing your digital forms, we're doing all your communications, your text to pay, all of your analytics, et cetera. It gives you everything that you need to know on this patient. So a lot of the time, let's say maybe you've been reaching out to this patient for a bill that hasn't been paid, or you've got some unscheduled treatment. All of that comes on that call pop. So you have a full rundown of anything that you need to do with this patient, right? So it's not just about knowing who's calling and what you need to talk about, but you can see that they're unconfirmed for their next visit. Maybe it's on the schedule, but it's unconfirmed. Or, you see that they've got an outstanding balance that you reached out to them 5 times and they haven't paid their balance. those types of things, you just want to make the practice a little bit more efficient in how they manage it.
And it's so easy on the training side, because I'm working with the teams on this. It's so easy. Oh, hey Gary, I noticed there's a $12 balance from your last visit. I can take care of that right now for you over the phone.
Yeah.
And in the world that we live in, where everything is pretty much instant. I'm in an area where next day delivery just doesn't work anymore. Next day doesn't work. I'm not waiting till tomorrow. It comes the same day. I mean, I know that Amazon doesn't deliver same day everywhere, but if you're in Nashville, it does.
In Nashville, they will. It's impressive too. When they pop up with the times and it says it'll be delivered sometime between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m. I'm like, wow,
it's crazy. I mean,
Bezos doing some good work over there.
Oh yeah, talk about efficiencies. But you're doing a similar. I look at the lift that you guys are doing for dental offices in the same way. I mean, analytics. I mean, again, I'll wear my nerd badge with honor. Those analytics that you provide go way deeper than we get off of our PMS systems, our practice management systems. And those analytics really allow us to not only get, I love data because data tells us what happened. I love that, but I'm more interested in what's happening. Well, what's happening, because if I know what's happening, then I can be proactive. Let's say if I look at something mid-month and I don't like the way the metrics are working, I still have the rest of the month to come up with some strategies to resolve that. So we get to the finish line at the end of the month, we got where we wanted to go. My undergraduate degree, this is something you probably don't know, Josh, and certainly your listeners probably don't know. My undergraduate degree is in history. So I do love history. I love it. Okay. But when it comes to data, it tells you what happened. Well, it's already happened. I want to know what's happening. And that's what your analytics does. Can I put you on the spot? Can you name an analytic, something you guys do that would fit into that what's happening category? Can you name something that, one thing that jumps out to me is looking at, say, hygiene occupancy.
Okay.
I kind of coined that term. Hygiene occupancy means of the available hygiene appointments that we have in the practice, what percent ended up with a butt in the seat?
Yep.
And I set a high standard. We're not looking for 100% because you're going to have some, that's not realistic. But 92% or more is what we're looking for. Well, if we go to add it and we discover that our hygiene occupancy is below that, we can do some things strategically in the remaining time in the month to get to the finish line. I'm a distance runner. And if I'm running a marathon, I pay close attention to where I am at my half marathon time. And if I'm not halfway to where I want to be, then I better pick up my pace. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, it's not rocket science, but it's pretty simple. But offices don't do that. Traditionally, our practice management system has only provided us with the history, what happened.
Yeah.
And your analytics actually can provide indicators of what's happening, as opposed to what just happened.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's lifetime data. So it's also, you want to make it easy to use, easy to understand, and easy to act on. I think the other big problem that we see pretty often when talking to practices is they may be tracking something. They may have some kind of metrics that they're, keeping a finger on the pulse with, but in order for them to actually do something about it, their systems are so segmented that they're having to log out, go into a different system to pull a list of patients that, fit this criteria. Then they're going into a separate system that's going to be the system that they're going to try to communicate with these patients. And it just gets a little jumbled up. I think, to your point, we've got these occupancy dashboards where you can add all the different providers at your practice. We can even add which hours they work and get some really narrowed down numbers on, production per hour, production per day type situation, and which operatories they're working in. So we can give you an exact estimate of how much dollars you're losing by having open chair time. And then once you realize those things, it's like, okay, we know what the problem is now. That's 90% of the battle. Now, what are we going to do about it?
Well, you used a term that I'm very fond of, actionable data. Actionable data. Like a classic case is, it's Tuesday. in an office. And Wednesday afternoon, we have a nice 2-hour appointment with some nice production schedule. Okay. But later in the day on Tuesday, that patient calls you and says, I'm so sorry. They called an all hands meeting at work tomorrow out of the blue. I had no idea of this. I've got to reschedule my appointment for tomorrow. Okay. Things like this happen all the time in dental practices, right? So in the old days where we just had our practice management system, we had to go to a report that had unscheduled treatment plan. We're now going to try to fill that appointment on Wednesday afternoon. Mm-hmm. And they had to go to a report. That by itself can take some time. They had to sort through it and try to figure out who should I contact. And by the time they do all that, there's no time left to contact them and fill that appointment. Explain how this is done in the 21st century, Josh.
Well, a couple of different ways to do it, honestly. I think where my mind first goes to is just having a clean, updated ASAP list or, patient waiting list. People use different terms for it. What we call it here at Added is an ASAP list, but ASAP, yep. Any kind of list of patients that are waiting for an earlier appointment, even if they're already on a schedule. Yeah. Having something cleaned up there to when you have a last minute cancellation that I can go there, click 1 or 2 buttons and get a text out to all of those patients saying, hey, if you want to come in tomorrow at 2, we just had something open up. Let's get you in there.
Your process is so seamless because it's literally, it's identified. We can identify the ASAP list. We can literally, do some keystrokes and a text message goes out to that patient. I mean,
yeah, 2 or 3 clicks and they're out. And it's, the term I use is called feature stacking. I don't know if this is a regularly used term in tech, but that's what I call it. But it's using different functionalities that we offer together in different use cases. So an example here would be like online scheduling tool. So even in this ASAP list scenario, we could include a link to the schedule and just have the patient book themselves. Again, so just trying to be as efficient as possible with some of these things. So we're not waiting on them to text back. We're not waiting on them to answer a call. They can actually just go book themselves.
So real-time online scheduling. I know for many of our listeners and viewers, this will be maybe the first time they're hearing of that capability. But think about this for a minute. Josh, my wife and I enjoy restaurants. And we like supporting restaurants, especially locally owned restaurants. And you're in a foodie town as well. I can't remember the last time I called a restaurant to make a reservation. What do I do now?
Yeah, open table. Resi.
Yeah, pull up open table. Hey, honey, did you want 6:30 or 7? 6:30. There it is, right? Yeah. I mean, it's it made it easier for the restaurant, easier for us. And if you're not sure you want to extend this across your entire practice, you can extend it in hygiene for sure. Hygiene's easy. Typically in most practices, it's an hour appointment. Pick the one you like. Think about what happens in hygiene when you reach out to a patient, they call you back, they got your voicemail. You're playing this vicious game of phone time. Meanwhile, that appointment's open, and now you can just present real-time online scheduling. That happens in real time, connected to your PMS system. It's current, and it's such a it reduces the workload to fill open appointments in hygiene radically.
And it's being adopted everywhere. The fact that there's still a pretty large percentage. I want to say it's the number we have is like 86% of dental practices don't have any kind of online scheduling option, which is a pretty high number for adoption there. But across the board, outside of the dental industry, you see it everywhere. Yeah. You mentioned it with restaurants. If I get a haircut, I schedule it online. If I'm going to get my car washed, I'm scheduling it online. I mean, everything that I do is online to be able to schedule and reschedule. And I'll tell you, we work with over 5,000 practices at this point. And the highest performing practices that I see, they not only use online scheduling, but they use it to a very detailed degree. You mentioned, of course, using it for hygiene. And I think that's the easiest no-brainer to do because you can automate a lot of the process. Because 99% of the practices that are going to listen to this call are already doing some kind of automated recall. Right. Some kind of text message saying, hey, it's been 6 months. Let's get you back in. Right. The easiest thing is just to include a link to your schedule and say, go ahead and book your next appointment. Even if you don't allow new patients, if you don't allow different services, if you just put the hygiene visits, easiest thing to do, highest return on investment thing that you'll do. Now, going beyond that, the really high performing practices and how they're reaching out to unscheduled treatment and how they're going about those types of things is they really narrow it down so that they can customize their messaging as well in how they're reaching out to practices. Give an example. You mentioned analytics. One of our analytics dashboards just tracks recare, right? How much unscheduled treatment do you have on the books? How long has it been on the books? And it is not out of the ordinary for a practice to have several $1 million in unscheduled treatment from the last year.
By the way, for our listeners, doctors, if you ever want to really, experience this, I challenge you to pull up an unscheduled treatment plan. You better be sitting down when you see it, because if you've been in practice any period of time at all, it will be 7 digits plus. It'll be multi-million dollars.
Oh yeah.
And I know that most dentists also care deeply about their patients. At least the dentists that I work with in my coaching and you have as addict clients, they really do want their patients to get in good oral health, and to help them achieve great oral health. And there's so much focus on new patients, but if we could just get our existing patients to accept treatment, you probably wouldn't need a new patient for the rest of your career.
100%.
And you make it easy. Patients drift just by human nature. If it isn't urgent, they can drift away. But there's ways to use that through campaigns and different, automation that makes it very easy. We care about you. The messaging that we could deliver can be very warm and soft, but we care about you. If it's fillings, we can talk about the fact that it might be good for us to get this taken care of before it becomes something more complicated, like a root canal and crown. Good for us, not for you. Let's get it taken care of now. Or now, this time of year, getting people in before the end of the year that have unused insurance benefits.
Oh yeah.
Right? The public doesn't think about it the way you and I do, Josh. We know that the benefits don't carry over, so we're mindful of that. But the John Q. public doesn't realize they don't know that. And when we tell them, hey, when the clock strikes, when the crystal ball drops in Times Square on midnight on December 31st, whatever benefits you have left, they don't carry over. They go back to the fat cats at the insurance company. And by the way, that's the language I like to use. I want them to think about those insurance companies as the fat cats. And that patients respond to that it's like, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. Yeah, I want to get in.
100%. And that's what I'm saying about messaging. Like the messaging has to match. We can't send this mass text saying you have unscheduled treatment and just to all of these patients, and especially so many doctors come to me and they say, Josh, I want to do more bigger cases, or I want to do more Invisalign or, whatever it is.
Well,
right? And if you're not being specific with your messaging, you're not going to get these guys.
Yeah.
And so I tell them, go in. So you say, end of year, your insurance is not going to carry over. Being able to go in and find that recare list and be able to segment the list and say, all right, I only want to see my patients that have this as their primary insurance, and I want to see the ones that have left benefits of this amount that they can use.
That way, you're not sending a blank, a generic message that might not apply.
Yes, exactly.
I think one of the things that keeps offices from doing things like this is, well, how do I know that patient still has benefits? Do I just send the message out and hope that I've reached the right people? Well, that's not really being connected to our patients. We want to say, Josh, you have benefits left this year. Here's something to think about. And that's a targeted message it lands very well. Most patients are very grateful. It's like, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. Yeah.
And think about it when you're doing a promotion. I had a client this week that wanted to do a Invisalign promotion. They wanted to do a clear aligner day, and they wanted to do $500 off aligners, till a certain period of time. And so what they did was they went in their system. They found everybody with unscheduled treatment who'd ever had a consult for clear aligner, or maybe was considering clear aligners at the time, or had a case presented, right? They segmented it out and they only pulled for clear aligners, right? And then so they're sending a mass text to this custom list of these people that all want clear aligners. And the messaging in that is very targeted. Hey, patient name, we know that you were considering clear aligners at one point. We're doing a special day next week where we're doing a ton of consults, and we're doing $500 off clear aligners.
Yeah,
Here's the link to my schedule. Go ahead and book your time for that day. Yeah. And this is what I was saying earlier, being very targeted in what you do with the scheduling. So saying, all right, I only want to show the availability for this day for this type of treatment or this type of consult. And then they're going in and they're booking a specific time. We're not leaving it up to them to say, okay, I'm a returning patient. Which service do you want to select? I want to select this. You detail all of that out. So it's just super easy for them. So the messaging matches. So I'm getting a text saying, hey, Josh, we know the last time you came in, you were considering clear aligners. Just wanted to let you know we're doing $500 off this month. If you want to schedule your consult, here's a link. We've had clients book $40,000 in production from sending a text.
I'm a huge aligner fan. And I really do appreciate Invisalign. I know there's other brands, but I really like Invisalign.
Shout out Invisalign.
Yeah, and I love it. And the messaging there is so appropriate. If someone's had an Invisalign consultation, they've shown some interest in it, and they don't schedule at that time, the number one reason would be what? What would be the number one?
Arrow.
Money.
Dollars.
Money. And so we can say, hey, we're having a special day. Because we're going to be doing, we're going to get some economy of scale, and we can pass the savings along to you. You'll receive a $500 savings if we start here. It's such a great message. We've had offices in my client base that we started out doing one of those Invisalign days a year. You know, I love everything about Invisalign except one thing: their lab fee. Okay, but I'll give them a pass on that because I love their technology. I love the advancements that they make. Love all of it. I just don't like the lab fee. Well, if you do more volume, you bring the lab fee down because they give you discounts, at higher value. You want to be the highest tier. I used to know it. It was gold was the highest tier, and then it went to a platinum.
Yep.
And I think now it's titanium. I'm not sure. But whatever the highest is, you want to get at that level because now you're going to get a big discount on the lab fee. And now you're going to be doing Invisalign, kind of at the same, cost as some of the other, the other aligner type brands.
Yep.
But I've had offices that have done, the idea, we'll do one. And then now they're doing 2 or 3 a year. They're spacing them apart. And having no trouble filling those Invisalign days because of a campaign, just like you mentioned.
Yeah, because you think, what are you going to do otherwise? So without tools like these, how are you going to treat it? And I'll ask practices. I'll say, all right, you want to do this? What's your plan? Why don't you tell me how you're going to do it? And they're going to be like, well, I'm going to print this list and I'm going to have Stacy over at the front desk start calling. And I say, all right, well, how many people answer those calls? First of all, if you're not tracking your analytics, you don't know how many people are answering those calls. But I digress. But you go in, you see that, 95% of these people are working, they're not answering their phone during business hours. You're not going to get in touch with them. This is a 5-day follow-up process. And frankly, whoever you're giving this task to doesn't have 5 hours out of their day that they can spend calling down a list. So if I can do something in 5 minutes that takes you 15 hours and get better results, why are we not doing it?
All over it.
Yeah.
I want to brag on something, Josh, that I love about Addict, and that's your pricing. You and your team have done an amazing job of feature stacking. Am I using that right term?
Yeah.
Okay, that was your term. I'm going to give you credit for it. But you have put an amazing set of features that if practices are using independent solutions for those different features, they're likely paying a multiple of what the cost would be to have all that packaged under Addict. I looked at a client recently, and it was literally 4x is what they were paying on the solo solutions.
Yep.
Without it being integrated. it was 4 times as expensive. And let's face it, right now, dental offices are getting squeezed. Inflation is real, in dental offices. Everything we buy in the dental office is more expensive. Some of that, has to do with our supplies. But the highest category of our costs has been wage inflation, especially hygiene. Hygiene wages are really have really escalated. And if you want to attract and keep quality hygienists, you have got to keep pace with the wages. I mean, I don't shoot the messenger here. I don't set those, but you're bringing solutions to the practice that allow the practice to be significantly more productive at a price point that is much lower than they're currently paying for the independent solutions. Now, that's my view from the outside looking in. Am I correct?
No, 100%. I mean, the average practice that's switching to Addit is saving about $600 a month. And most of the time, that's just via consolidation. I mean, the biggest thing, because, you'd be surprised. Sometimes we show pricing and people don't believe it, or they think there's a special hook. They're like, all right, well, there's got to be, it's a 2-year contract. What are you locking me into? No.
Oh, wait, it's a lifetime contract, right?
Lifetime contract. Yeah. We don't do any long-term commitments. All of our services are month to month. The big thing with Addit is that, we've been in business for a little over 13 years now. We are still 100% self-funded. So even at scale at this point, we have never taken outside money. We've never, got venture capitalists getting involved in our business. There's no separate board of directors that are making decisions. So we've never raised prices. We've always tried to do what we thought was best for the client. Wow. And as we build new pieces of technology and as we innovate, we always try to keep in mind what is best for the client and what is going to solve problems. And the way we look at it is if we keep solving problems, we're never going to have to worry about new business on our end. And so when you see some of the other players in the space that, have either gone public or they take $500-600 million in funding, they're not always in charge of the decisions that they make anymore. And you've got an outside board of directors that's saying, hey, the profit needs to go up by 12% this year. You need to raise costs by $100. So we have all the time. And I mean, we're all active in the Facebook groups. We see it all the time. Hey, my phone bill is going up by another $120 a month. What are you guys doing? I can't spend this anymore. And so it's a big thing for us.
Yeah. And if you're still, I think of Addit on the phone function as being an office smartphone. Okay. I know my terminology, not yours. I mean, the thing that we carry in our pockets is a smartphone, right? But if you're still using Ma Bell as your phone, in the office, you've got a dumb office phone. I'm offending Ma Bell, but am I correct?
No, 100%.
I mean, what does it do for you other than nothing? What does that do for you? And, and many offices still have that traditional, Ma Bell derivative phone system. But now you've got a hyper-powered smart office phone with all the functionality that goes with it at a fraction of the cost. I was concerned at one time about, because it is a VoIP, voice over internet protocol system, correct?
Yes.
At one time, there was concerns about connectivity and having downtime. And my vantage point from the client side, it's insignificant today. But that's my viewpoint. What is it from your side as far as connectivity?
Yeah. As far as downtime, I mean, it's a plethora of different factors, but it's 99% uptime in most scenarios. I mean, I would definitely encourage
multiple data centers, right?
Yeah, multiple data centers. As far as the internet used in office, I always recommend that you guys keep an eye on, what you're using and what the connectivity levels are in there. Because if you do have, less than ideal internet, you will deal with some issues, right? So we always do.
If it's run by the hamster on the treadmill back in the closet,
then you're not going to have some great calls. So we anytime we onboard a new client, we do a connectivity test, a speed test on the internet, just to make sure before we even send phones out, because we're like, okay, this is not going to work the way you want it to work if you keep paying for this internet from 15 years ago that's super slow and you're not getting what you need. But as far as downtime, I mean, server wise, we use AWS. Amazon. So, it's not something that is a concern for us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really, with good business practices has gone away.
Yeah.
For sure. I've been sending clients over for demos, and every one of them said, "Oh my God, I'm blown away." So I would encourage our viewers and listeners to schedule a demo. If you're not already an Addict client, schedule a demo. Your demos are amazing.
Well, thank you, sir.
I had an office manager call me. She had a demo scheduled yesterday, and she sent me a text message towards the end of the day. She goes, "Oh my gosh, how have we been practicing without this?" I said, "See,
changing lives one practice at a time." Well, yeah, I really appreciate you joining us today. I've got one final question that I like to ask every guest that comes on with us. If you had to give one tip to a practice that is looking to grow, what is that tip?
Well, growth. I have, I'm, of course, my day job is I own a consulting firm. I work with practices all over the country. And there's two lanes that I have particular expertise on. One of them is helping offices successfully resign from PPO plans. And it's not a one size fits all. It has to be evaluated within your practice. But when you're giving away 45 to 50% of your revenue to the fat cats at Delta, did I say that, or did I? Oh, I guess I did actually name them. Yes, I don't mind naming them. When they are the bad guys. When you're giving 45 to 50% of your fee to the fat cats at Delta, that's just not fair. But not every office can successfully resign from PPO plans. But I have had great success, over 400 practices in all 50 states, helping offices successfully reduce insurance dependence. Notice I didn't call it fee for service, because you don't have to go all the way to fee for service to significantly improve your practice. Every time you resign successfully from a PPO plan, you improve your practice. So that's one of my lanes. The other lane is growth, is helping practices grow. So to answer your question very specifically, I'm going to actually, you said one thing, but if I may I suggest two things?
How about it?
One would be a really good system to follow up on unscheduled treatment, which you glanced on here. Because, and think of it in terms of being of service to your patients. And that's really how I'd like, I mean, yes, I can be nerdy about bean counting all you want and show you how much this is going to enhance your bottom line. But let's also think about it of how we're benefiting the patient. I think everything we do should have a benefit to the patient. And when you're following up on scheduled treatment, just let them know you care about them, and you didn't want something that we could take care of now conservatively become more complicated. Let's help you. So a good campaign around following up on unscheduled treatment. And the other thing, and again, you can be a great Addict can be a great tool for this, is looking for opportunities to add same-day dentistry. And same-day dentistry, Josh, has two meanings in dentistry. One meaning is if we have a CERAC or a mill that we're doing a crown in one visit. So same day instead of having to come back. I'm not using it in that context. I'm using it in the context of adding treatment to your schedule today on patients that are already here in our office. So for example, Josh, you may be there for a hygiene appointment, but you have unscheduled treatment fillings on the upper right. And let's assume we have the ability to move you from the end of your hygiene appointment over to this chair at the end of your appointment and do those fillings today. I'm saving you a trip. I may be helping you use your insurance benefits. I may be preventing fillings becoming root canals and crowns, and I'm serving the patient. And the opportunity to add same-day dentistry exists in most practices. And you can take, some offices will have seasonality where certain times of the year are less busy than others. And we can respond to that by a really cool campaign that's patient-centric about adding in same-day dentistry. So those are the two things that I would talk about in terms of growth: following up on scheduled treatment plans and really mastering the art of delivering same-day dentistry.
Got it. Well, Gary, thank you so much. For the listeners that want to check you out, they want to learn more about you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a couple of places. Email is a great way to reach me. Gary at Takacs, Takacs, learningcenter.com. And also I'm going to do something a little bit different, Josh. I love technology. I love text message. Here is my personal cell phone, 602-321-1778. If you'd like to reach out to me by text, that's the phone that's in my pocket. Shoot me a text message. Love to hear from you.
Cool. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.